Okay. Here we go. All right. All right, here's Bethany. All right, let me pull up my introduction for Bethany. So Bethany Hegedus is here with us this evening. We're so excited to have you here. Bethany is an in-demand keynote speaker and an authority on both children's literature and creativity. In 2025 alone, 3 new books debuted: Batter Up for the First Day of School, Yours, Mine, Ours, a celebration of service and community, which is here. And with co-author Arun Gandhi. Wow, grandson of Mahatma Gandhi.
Wow.
Yes. And the 3rd book, No Bad Parts, with co-author Dick Schwartz, world-renowned creator of the internal family systems model of therapy. Wow. So Bethany is the founder and creative director of The Writing Barn, which you may have heard of. I probably talked about it in here a few times. A global online writing craft and creative community. She lives and writes here in Austin, and we're so very glad to have you here. So thank you, Bethany, for being here today.
Oh my goodness, what a joy to be here in person and with you all online. I basically live online, so the fact that I have like legs is kind of freaking me out. So I may stand, I may sit, I don't know what I'll do. So just a really wonderful joy to be here, and thank you to Maureen for having me, and thank you to all of you for showing up for your work day in and day out and making this a commitment to yourselves. So I'm super honored to be with you. Who in here is a fiction writer? And then who's a nonfiction writer? All right. And who does both? All right. And then it sounded like Kirta, are there any children's writers amid the group as well? Okay, fabulous, fabulous. So I'm excited to be with all of you and excited to be in the library as well. So hello there. The talk is called Tips to Calm the Chaos and Create the Stories and a Career That You Love. So we know it can be hard to get to the page. And then who in here is pursuing publication along with drafting and working on your work? So then there's that aspect as well. So there are 2 folds that we're going to kind of talk about tonight. So use whatever's appropriate for where you are and what you're doing. Okay, so we can go to our second slide.
Okay, I'm going to share the screen with you guys. In a sec.
And basically, one of the reasons I wanted to be in person with you all is because the Writing Barn began as an in-person location in South Austin. Had anybody ever been to our original location? Kind of down by the Moon Tower Saloon at Manchaca and Slaughter. And so we are now, this year is going to be 14 years. We left the physical property about 3 years ago, and we've been online since before the pandemic, but really kind of shifted fully to taking care of writers online during the pandemic. And much of what I do and much of what I talk about is about bringing our best work forward, finding our ways not only to the page, but understanding for those who do want to eventually publish what it is that we need. And it all started, right, for all of us, probably cross-legged in a library somewhere, right? Were you all like library hounds as little ones and all throughout your life? So writers start as readers. So as we're talking about what to do inside of our writing life, don't ever leave your reading life behind. It's integral. And I heard some people talking about some of the things that you are already, reading and sharing about. And another thing that I really want us to focus on is that we don't just write when we are at the page.
Mm.
If we're writers, we're always observing, we're observing life. And so here as the slide says, we write while doing the dishes, while driving, while cuddling our kids, walking the dog. We don't just write at the page. We can pre-create anytime and anywhere. So pay attention to that time as well when you're staring off into space and, maybe your life partner or somebody comes by and they think you're not doing anything and you're like, I am hard at work, right? All right, you tell them, Bethany said, I'm allowed to stare out the window. It is ultra important. And we are working. We're working because we're observing, we're processing, and we are taking things in. We have an active internal life as writers. And then when we move to pursue publication, and I heard there's critique groups, right? So we have to then put our inner world or our characters' inner worlds on the page, and then we share them with each other for critique and to improve structure, pacing, character development, so many different things before we then move to pursue publication. And at the Writing Barn, over the 14 years of taking care of writers, we're about ready. I'm so excited. It was supposed to be January, but best laid plans, right? Website launch, redesign of what we've been up to. And I formulated this system called the Thrive system. And it stands for, let me write down what it is. It's trust, honor, root, invest, value, and evolve. I have lots of different acronyms. So I'm like, oh my goodness, what was that E? So that's kind of like what we're going to talk about tonight a little bit as we go through. So remember, it is okay to trust your creative impulse. Trust that when you're not typing, as we said, when we're wondering and in awe and when we're staring out the window. Trust that silence isn't the end. Trust that any near misses aren't about inadequacy, it's about the learning curve, and trust that the answer is always in the work. Go back to the work when you're struggling. The answer is usually there in the scene, in the character, in the subconscious clues that you've left yourself.
I love that advice.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's totally true. Years ago, when I was struggling with the ending of something, somebody told me, go back to the beginning and just reread the beginning. And it was true.
You planted seeds all along the way. And it's important to go back and look for clues. Everybody's kind of heard that E.L. Doctorow quote about like driving in the dark about fiction, right? It's something I like, you can only see as far as the headlights. I think it's an E.L. Doctorow quote. And I also think about who here is a fast drafter? And who here's a slow drafter? I'm a very slow drafter. And I often don't know the ending before I get there. And so I like to chart back to where I've been, kind of like an explorer, right? Yeah. I like to go out into the story, see what's there, and then I trace the roots back and, sometimes see where I took a wrong turn for sure. And lots of wrong turns when you're when you do that type of work. Okay, awesome. Okay, so when we talk about the literary life, there's a writer named Virginia Pye, and she kind of talked about these different components. So we have writing and reading, or reading, attending conferences or festivals, meeting fellow writers and publishing professionals. So like you all are attending to your literary life right now, not just your craft, but your literary life. You're engaging as a literary citizen. But then there's like 1,000 other things, right? And we can move to the next slide. There's craft exploration, there's podcasts, there's social media, there's where to invest your time. There's coming to events like this. There's seeing events at the bookstore. There's taking time to retreat. There's reading craft books. Do we have any like lovers of certain craft books where you turn to learn story structure? So there's
Yeah.
1,000 different things that you can be ingesting. And we also need to be sure that we're digesting. Okay, that we're not just taking all of this in, but that we are digesting it into our literary life, what's ours to keep. Okay, so don't think if you're engaging in all of those different activities that all of them need to like bring something to bear on the work itself or on your writer heart. Take what you need and what nourishes you and leave the rest. But along with all those many hats, we can get overwhelmed, or I can get overwhelmed. Does anybody else ever get overwhelmed at all there is to do, all there is to learn, all of it? Okay, so let's just take a pause and take a deep breath, because you can't build a literary life when you're in the middle of panic and overwhelm. And we know bandwidth is like at a like ultimate low for the whole world, the publishing industry, ourselves, our families, our communities. And it's even more important than ever that we kind of like take time to nourish ourselves and to center and to find what it is that's the kernel of why we do what we do. So now I'm going to talk a bit about passion and purpose. And this is where I'm going to ask you some direct questions, and you can jot them down. I may ask for some, oh, you here, I forget, you're behind me and in front of me, everybody, online, to think about your writing life. So I call this your big why. And whether you're a burnt out writer, you know, or like pursuing publication like wholeheartedly for the last 15 years, or you're a dreamer, as Maria came in tonight, sharing that this is new to her, she wants to do her work. It's important for us to focus on why we do what we do. So ask yourself right now, why do you create? And I say create because writing is, you know, some people also draw, some people also, you know, do many things. So you can ask yourself, why do I write, or why do I create? And then also, I'd love for you to ask yourself, what part of your creative life feels the most alive right now? What part of your creative life? So that could be some of the things we just talked about, like you're getting a lot of energy from listening to podcasts, or you're getting a lot of energy from attending talks, or this character speaking to you, or you're deep in the research rabbit hole. So whatever it is where you're finding like the juice, go ahead and write that down. And also a potential other question. So Maria, who's like in the dreamer phase, this is where we're beginning, and sometimes self-trust isn't high at this time, but at the same time, there's also that beautiful beginner's mind. Who remembers that beautiful beginner's mind? And it can be kind of fearless. Like sometimes when you start to, you're like, wait, I'm supposed to write a novel. And you sit down without knowing like exactly what to do, but you're confident, like you can own it and you feel like you understand your purpose. So if you started to doubt that purpose, go back to that. Go back to that and like see, what do you need to fuel that fire again? If you've been doubting or wondering, or stop trusting that initial creative impulse. Okay, I see pens writing and heads down online. Okay. And for me, we can go to the next slide. I write, we click it again. I write to be heard. So that's really what fuels everything for me. To make meaning, and to transform pain into action. So in my body of work, I have done a lot of biographies, one of Jimmy Carter, it's President's Day, Maya Angelou, Harper Lee. I worked with Arun Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi's grandson. We had 4 books on older stories. One was on the Bluebonnet list called Grandfather Gandhi, about his time living on the ashram with his grandfather as a boy, to these other stories about community service and peace, and exploring more organically some of Gandhi's teachings and what Arun wanted to share with the world. And Arun worked until I believe he passed away 2 years ago now at 84.
Wow.
And was speaking in a girls' school in India and writing at night in his journal until he passed away. So again, living a full literary life, continuing to like examine his passion and purpose, and continuing to serve. And I also believe like story serves us. So when we have a greater desire other than like, I want to see my name on a book one day, because we need to and want to do that. Who wants to see their name on a book one day, right? Yes, and to walk into the beautiful library and your book is there, or a bookstore, and to have your book there. When it gets hard, like, you go back to that passion and purpose. Would anyone like to share why they write?
I love my novel writing is historical research, and I love the historical research.
Yeah.
I spend years researching a story.
I heard you laugh at the rabbit hole of research.
Yeah, and that's my favorite thing to delve into. My last novel, I got a research assistant. Someone assigned me a research assistant, and it was just, I'd never had a research assistant before, and it was amazing.
Wow. That's
Anyway,
awesome.
I love that.
Awesome. Yes, Justin.
Couple of reasons, but I'd say my strongest right now is that I want to see the ideas that I have in my head come to life. It's just, I have so many ideas and interesting things that are inspired, and just kind of hurts having those stuck there instead of out somewhere you can see.
Yeah. Maya Angelou, there's a quote that says, "There's no greater pain than the pain of an untold story inside of you." So like, I feel that like, where you're like, I gotta get it out. I need to make sense of what it is I think, and then I can share it with others, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah.
Mine's a little more deeply psychological. I am compelled to write. And it is the thing that, of all the things I do in a busy life, it's what centers me. I want it to come out, want it to be a book, but it's a very deep level, psychological.
Yeah, it's a psychological need
Yes.
to express yourself, to understand, to get it out, to spend that time at the page. Who's cranky if they don't write after a while? Maureen is?
Yeah.
How long can you go, Maureen?
I mean, I feel good if I do it every day. And if I don't do it, then I start to get grumpy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right? So again, for those of you who may need boundaries for your families, or like other people, writers, I heard that we have a father and son here, so they understand each other, but sometimes our families don't understand the writing life. That, like, remember and remind them it's good for you and it's good for them to get the work done, to give you the time and space and energy you need to either close that door if you have a, busy family, or to get someone to pick up the dog from the pet sitter, or whatever it is you may need to like put the time and energy back into your work. It matters. Yeah.
Well, I was just saying, why I write is twofold, partly. I've always also been a visual artist, always, but I was not a writer. I was a huge reader, and I started writing for catharsis. I was at a very bad point in my life, and thanks to Maureen, I came through it. And now I write because I love to write.
Hmm.
I'm not in a bad place anymore, but I love words. I love making a story and thinking, I hope somebody will like this. I don't so much care if my name is on the book. I'd be happy to publish it under Linda. But
You can finish my next one. Would you do that for me? I'm having trouble.
I absolutely love writing itself.
Yeah.
I find it really a wonderful thing.
Right. And we have to keep that love alive because there is a time where you'll get to where you don't love it as much. Okay.
Way past that though. That. No, I never quit loving it. I do love to
Good.
write.
Good.
And I still paint. I'm a painter as well. And there are days when I'll write, and there are days when I'll paint, and I'll think, you gotta get that painting. Or, oh, I want to finish that story. And that's a beautiful part of my life. It's a beautiful life, frankly.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I knew we'd have a visual artist
Mhm.
as well with the word create. And I can see,
Yeah.
you know, in your beautiful scarf and your colors that you're
Thank
wearing.
you.
That,
Yeah, I do like color. But yeah,
awesome.
I just think writing is, I had to write a very small article for a international art magazine a few years ago about why do you create? And I thought, because I can't not.
Yeah.
Mm.
It just doesn't have, can't do it.
Good.
Yeah.
We have to follow that creative purpose, right? That creative fire, that drive, and to let it keep leading us back, you know, so that's part of the T in trusting your voice and trusting your developing skill set, no matter where you are in terms of your craft development. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna get there. All right. And what's your name? Okay, thank you. We got some exercises coming up because woo, whose life crashes in on this beautiful, creative, passionate time, you know, like the mundaneness of life, as well as like just all the things that we need to get done. And sometimes, right, like the laundry's calling us because we're stuck with a craft problem. So
Mhm.
sometimes like going somewhere
Right.
else to write helps.
Yeah.
So like you don't have to see or like, you know, but yeah, we're gonna get there. And you can ask a question too about anything that might be like weighing on your mind. And I can address that as well. Okay. All right. So you all have shared a bit why you write. So thank you for doing that. We can go to the next one. And as we and then really think about what does living a literary life mean to you? So this is beyond the actual writing, or, you know, and it may be a creative life. What does that mean to you? As you said, you wake up, it's what you enjoy doing, it's what fills your days, it's what gives you energy. So what does living that literary life mean to you? And you can imagine it as like the perfect literary life too, where there isn't the mundane crashing in. You know, we all are getting to go on this retreat where we just have our notebook and our pen, right? Imagining our daily, imagining, you know, our perfect life. One of the creative directors at the Writing Barn, I think you may know Claire.
No, or what's
I forgot Claire's last name. Oh my God, she worked for me like for a very long, Claire Campbell.
okay.
And you know, often talked about like allowing ourselves to fantasize about what our best writing day would look like.
Mhm.
You know, what would it look like? What would it feel like? And especially kind of sometimes when we're stuck in the pits of like the project's not going well or something like that, to use that
Yeah.
to like move us forward.
Mhm.
Okay. So this is something I said once. And the only reason I have it is because I teach writers and I used to lead this group called Write, Submit, Support. And I would write process letters. They would write process letters to me
Mhm.
as they turned in their work. And then I would write feedback letters back. And I wrote this and I asked my writers to share quotes that meant something to them. And so this is something that I once said that somebody found some interest in, and I thought that it might speak to some of you, that we have to feel the feelings. Just because it's painful doesn't mean it isn't worth doing. It's actually a sign that it's more than worth doing.
Hmm.
So if like we're struggling with faith, or for those of you who are pursuing publication, like the rejections can mount up,
Mhm.
or just that idea of how do I make the time, and is this what I should be doing with my time when there are so many other things?
Mhm.
I believe that there's a Greek phrase for exactly this. I'm gonna butcher it, but I believe it's pathos mathos,
Mm,
which is through suffering experience.
mm.
So
Ooh, I'm gonna write that. Can you write that down for me?
Let me look.
I have a pen, but I don't have paper out. I want to keep that. That's awesome. Okay. So as we kind of talk about this yucky part, right? Or feeling the feelings, we've been talking about like what a literary life is.
Mhm.
We're going to go to what it isn't really quick. Okay. So see if this has ever come up for you. What a literary life isn't: the compare despair syndrome, social media addiction,
Mhm.
getting together with creatives and dissing the ones that aren't there. This group would never do that. Okay, never ever. Wondering if your agent likes their other clients more than you. Being obsessive about publishers' lunch and marketplace sales announcements.
Hmm.
Reading published books only to compare your lousy first draft with their end vision.
Hmm.
Going to conferences and speaking to no one, or cornering publishing professionals to read your work. You all would never do any of those things, right? Like some of them you really were like, no, I would never slide my manuscript under the like bathroom stall. But so it happens. And like I've been given manuscripts. I can help you get published, but I cannot publish you myself.
Mhm.
So I know this kind of can happen. And it comes from a feeling of like desperation. And I don't ever want writers to be feeling desperate. We can be desperate to get our story out on the page. Like we can like use that painful feeling to get it out. But as we think about sharing our work with the wider world and understanding all the pitfalls that come up when we're living the literary life, I want us to stay as calm and centered as we can, because that fuels the work and it fuels ourselves. So that's why like the system is called Thrive, because I want writers thriving, not just surviving.
Mhm.
Before I was a writer, I was an actor and I was surviving.
Mhm.
Like, and I kind of used it to beat up on myself.
Mm.
Sometimes like the creative life, like, oh, could never achieve. It was all about the way you look. And I was told I was shy by my acting teacher, right? Like the shyest person she ever met. And I was like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. So like there's a part that I want us to like stop any and all self-flagellation. Okay. Because the world will do it for us enough. And the reviewers, the Kirkus reviewers, especially, no, I'm just kidding. The Kirkus has been good to me, but they can be tough.
Kirsten, who was here, just got a fabulous.
Yay! Good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Kirkus has always been good to me, but I have friends that I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, Laura. Is it Laura or Lori? Lauren.
Yeah.
I moved to New York City to act, and I became a writer instead. But I think I was an actor because I loved story. And the moment I figured out, a la Julia Cameron, who's done The Artist's Way, that I was a writer and not an actor, I like felt in my creative power. But everything I did as an actor came to bear on like dialect and scene structure and, but I think it like, I don't know. I mean, it got me to New York. Acting got me to New York, and that's where I became a writer. And I'm from the South originally, from Georgia, Chicago via Georgia. little weird. But my first works were yeah, my first works were Southern, and my parents are South Side Chicagoans, so maybe that was that. But I think I had to be somewhere where I wasn't
Mhm.
to be able to get the stories out, to be able to tell stories from my past. Or I've like always loved Southern literature.
Mhm.
I have a book on Flannery O'Connor coming out.
Oh,
Cool.
And so like Southern writers are always, it like just fed me.
Mhm.
Okay. So, but I don't think I would have been able to tell the stories I needed to tell if I didn't move
Yeah.
very far away from my
That makes
family.
sense.
I understand that Hemingway said he could never write about where he was currently living,
Right.
only about somewhere he'd already been through.
Yeah.
And I am a fan of Harper Lee, and Harper Lee moved to New York. And that's where she wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. So, you know, I think we all need to follow like what it is that we need to see,
Right.
and do for
As
ourselves.
far as the self-flagellation, I have always read really good literature and always thought, I'll never be that good. And my son said something good. He said, read really good literature and read some really bad literature.
Yes, read some bad literature. Read the books that you're like, how did this get
Exactly.
published?
That's-
Because they can inspire you too. Don't use that to be like, oh my gosh, how did this? But you know, it's kind of like the difference between like soap opera acting and Oscar acting, right? You know, when I was like, oh, but they showed up, they did the work, they got the job, right? So if they can keep at it, we can keep at it, right? And then whatever we can do to keep us going,
Mhm.
to use it for fuel instead of self-flagellation.
Mhm.
And this is what I think a flourishing literary life needs. And you all are participating in that right now. So time to write, to read, to create, to retreat. The submitting, whether that's submitting to agents, editors, magazines, contests, and knowing that there are places to submit or places to share your work, like the One Page Salon down at Radio. I'm friends with Owen Egerton, who started that.
I know, he's moved to Boston.
He has, and he has a new movie out, everyone.
Mhm.
It doesn't look like there are like major horror fans in the room,
No.
but his new movie is
Really?
Whistle, and like majority. Justin, I could just tell. I'm sure there was like one or two, but his new one that he screen wrote is called Whistle, and it just came out. And I just saw it reviewed in The Guardian. And so I'm not a horror fan, so I probably won't be watching it.
Mhm.
If I could just get the screenplay mailed to me, maybe I could read it. But even, you know, Stephen King, I've read his book on writing is the only one I've ever read.
Yeah.
I'm not a scary girl. So as Lauren, it was Lauren, right?
Yeah.
Okay, said, we're going to start talking about the mundane stuff and all that gets in the way.
Mhm.
So now I want you to list, we go to the next slide. This is what a flourishing literary life needs. And then, I didn't talk about support, but obviously support from readers, co-creatives. You're all participating in that right now.
Mhm.
Trusted friends, developing these relationships, and building your own canon can also be really important, like the books that you love that go back to inspire you. But yes, so that's what a flourishing life is. And this is all the stuff that gets in the way. All right, so who is aware of Too Many Hats? So these were some of mine. You can start to write down all your different hats. And these were just the literary ones, let alone just other ones. A writer, blogger, podcast host, creative business owner, a boss, a teacher, a mentor, a deadline breaker, a deadline keeper, a researcher, a copywriter, a query writer, an editor, an idea generator, a panelist, a speaker, a keynoter. You see nowhere on there is mom, wife, daughter, member of a church, like, you know, there's all of those things too, right? So put down all the different things that the interchangeable roles that you do and wear throughout the day.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we're all Renaissance people. And I don't know if we were, um, especially in today's modern life, right? Now we have to be an AI special. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
right.
what else are they going to
Mhm.
add to our plates, right?
Mhm.
And we have to, live an embodied life now. We don't just have to self-care. I want to be embodied. I want to be embodied, but like I don't want it to be another to do,
Right.
right? So just think about all the different things that pull at your attention, that others require of you, and that you want to give 100% to.
Mhm.
And we know a pie literally only has, the full circle is only 100%. There's not 120% of a pie.
Mhm.
Like we can have in our heads that we can give 120%,
Mhm.
but there's really that full circle. Otherwise, then you're just slopping it on top of the pie. And then you're making, what is that? Like the turducken, where that was like the turkey stuffed in the thing. I once saw a pie put in a cheesecake, put in a cake.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, that sounds like ew, right? So we want to think about what's going in our 100% pie, like the best organic ingredients, right? That's what we want. We don't want any giant disaster desserts.
Right.
Okay. So as you're writing down your hats, think about the ones that are most important to you
Mhm.
and the ones that fill your well. Okay. Because when your well is filled, you can fill the wells of others. We can't give it all away. And now we're going to get practical after that. Okay. So we're honoring the feelings that drive us to the work, and we're honoring the feelings that can keep us away from the work.
Mhm.
And now we're going to see what we can do. We're going to root before we reach. Okay. It looks like someone is in the waiting room.
Here comes Carl.
Only 36 hours.
Exactly. And 12 days in a week. Okay. So what we need to do, and it all comes down to time, right? Time is a currency. Writers know time. We know how many pages of output we do. Like who makes word count goals or page goals,
Yeah.
or sometimes like, where you share, like, when you're going to share pages next at your writing group, right?
Mhm.
Or when we look at a book that we're reading, like, oh, I wish I had all day to read this instead of just this half hour before bed, right?
Mhm.
So we do measure things in time, and we can learn to use time like we can scene breaks and chapter breaks, and use the time that we have to set the pacing for our literary life,
Mhm.
because we're in charge. We're in charge. That's the best thing about being a writer. You're the casting director, the lighting designer, the understudy, you're everything. So it is in your control. So let's build the literary life that we want, on it and in it what we want to have.
Mhm.
So we can go to the next. So think about for you, we did the hats. We can go to the next one. Okay, and everybody's good online? All right, I see some head shaking or nodding. Shaking would be the wrong thing. Nodding is the right. They're both a movement of the head, Bethany. Okay. It's Monday, right? All right. So we need to find the time to do these things, right? To write, to read, to retreat. So think now for your schedule with all your different hats. What do you need and want to do daily, weekly, monthly, and annually? Okay. So maybe you only need to retreat once a year or twice a year. Okay. Maybe you only need to be with your critique group weekly or monthly. In the beginning, when I first started writing, I met with my critique group in New York City every Thursday night.
Wow.
And I gave up watching Friends
Oh.
because I didn't know how to set my DVR at the time. This is how old I am, you guys. I missed Thursday night, whatever it was called, TV, must see TV. And still, like, I could go watch Friends now, but I kind of just feel like it's a point of like honor that I haven't seen every season 800 times, like most of us have, because I was putting my writing work first, right? Okay. So, and then after a time, then my critique groups now, after 17 years published and 27 at this, it took me 10 years to publish that first book. Like, I don't see my critique groups as often. Okay. So it's when we can, or I have a critique partner versus a big group, because now I'm teaching groups instead of actively participating in groups. So your literary life is going to change as well over time. So you're going to need to kind of like reevaluate as you grow. Okay. But as we said, like for some people, like writing daily is a must. For Stephen King, it's a must. He writes on Christmas Day, right? Some people, M.T. Anderson was the head of my master's program, and he's big in children's literature, and I believe he now has his first adult book out, but he's a very learned man, and he, you know, doesn't write for a long time and then writes for long stretches. So everybody's pattern is different. And also work with yourself. We're going to talk about that because we can daydream, right? Like in a perfect world, I would write every day from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. And then I would stretch and get my, you know, do whatever I have to do next. But even though that imaginary perfect day is important, we know every day is not that day. So we can strive to have elements of it or the feelings of that perfect day and really do the grunt work of being a writer, because it's grunt work.
Someone said in some sort of how-to book on writing, said that she tried writing every day and tried to make it and then felt really bad about herself because she didn't write every day. And she finally got to the point where she says she does something in honor of her writing every day.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just reading what she has written,
Right.
or editing what she's written before, or maybe it's calling somebody to arrange something that has to do with, maybe it's not any writing, maybe it's just looking at something and having an experience, but tying it to
that, like and that's the literary life, right?
Yeah.
And then on the opposite of that is, you know, who here believes in writer's block or has suffered from writer's block before? All right. Anne Lamott, the wonderful Anne Lamott.
Yeah.
I just love it. You know, she's the queen of like shitty first drafts, if we can say that. I also, I think she says, and I just love this. And when I talk about the grunt work of writing, there's the pushing through certain parts that are uncomfortable. Because she says, I believe it was her that said, plumbers don't get plumber's block. If you're a writer, write. Like we can get too magical about the process. Like, you know, put the words together, you know, and when we used to have write-away days at the writing barn, it would be, you come in like a group like this, you'd share like what your goal was for that day. One writer, her goal was always, I want to write one good sentence. Like she was happy if she wrote one good sentence. Okay. So obviously she wrote more than that, but that was the goal. And then she could be satisfied. So whether, you know, some writers write 2 pages a day, no matter what. And then I think it was Hemingway, like you leave in the middle of the chapter so you can go back tomorrow. Don't expend all the energy if you're doing a writing every day kind of cycle. So you can keep that pace going. Right.
It's sustainable.
Okay.
There were 2 months, well, I guess 3, in the winter of this last year when I couldn't write or paint. I just couldn't do it. I didn't want to. And was extremely helpful. Maureen has kind of pushes us to do a journal, like 4 times a year.
Mhm, yeah.
And so one day, I mean, and I dream active dreams. And one day I thought, okay, write. It doesn't matter if anybody likes it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just because you want to write it. And it was my favorite story so far. And it was
Mhm.
because I was like, yeah, I gotta get something for this quarterly.
Yeah,
I didn't really want to,
Deadlines,
but I
yeah.
did.
right.
Mhm.
We can write when we don't want to.
Yeah. And it.
Oh, we
it
brush
broke-
our teeth every night. Do we
Right.
really want to do that every night?
It broke the spell.
No.
Yeah,
kind
that's
of,
right.
though.
Do we want to cook every meal? Like we have to eat 3 times a day, you know, like
Mhm.
there's lots of stuff that's necessary that we don't love or don't like wouldn't check off. Yes,
Mm.
Lauren, you had something? George. Uh-huh. Yeah. Right. And habit building, that's like a tip from also too from the guy who writes Clear.
Hmm.
To like have a 5-minute habit instead of like, if you, wanted like limit it to 5 minutes a day
Mhm.
and then anything you do is extra.
Right.
But like,
Mhm.
instead of be like, I'm gonna write, sometimes I'd go on writing retreats with friends and they'd be like, um, some people who would write so fast, they'd be like, I wrote 1,500, it was probably even more than that, 15,000 words today. And I was like, what? I wrote 3,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, so do what you need to do. Okay. So, now let's talk about working with ourselves. Okay. So we can go to the next one. Picking the time of day, that you like to do the work.
Mhm.
So some people are morning people, the larks. Some people are night owls. And then there are others. So a lark likes to get up early and must do their work before, creative work before giving themselves to others.
Mhm.
I like to do that.
Mhm.
Like if I had my druthers, I'd wake up, I would write from 5 to 7.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, my child gets up at 6:30. So
Mhm.
there's something that interrupts that flow.
Right.
But and knowing ourselves. And then I had another friend who she loved to do the work after everybody went to bed. Like that's what it called to her. My husband's a night owl.
Mhm.
I'm a lark.
Mhm.
We see each other at lunchtime. Potentially. So like work with yourself. Like you can't turn a lark into a night owl, right? There's sometimes that I can write at night, but that's not when I do my best work.
Mhm.
And then for those of us who like have an ultra busy life, we can go to the next slide
Mhm.
and we can find the time anywhere we need it. Okay. You can write on your lunch break. You can write at your day job when the work is done. Don't get yourself fired. But in my day job in New York I was a writer receptionist.
Hmm.
And so I buzzed people through a door and I wrote all day.
Oh,
All right.
fabulous.
And it was the best kept secret.
Yeah.
I like got insurance. I did my master's program that way. And what does a receptionist have to do? Keep her butt in the chair. All right. So that's how like I did my apprentice years.
Mhm.
So much so that you have to get somebody to relieve you to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So like that was not fun.
Mhm.
But sometimes I was writing my novel and I'd answer the phone and I'd sound like a Southern person because I was deep in my like use whatever it takes.
Mhm.
Okay. I often write as a mom with my laptop in the car.
Mhm.
He's at Kumon, I'm
Yeah.
out in the car, he's at his music lesson,
Yeah.
like whatever you need to do. There are plenty of people who just write on the weekend, right? Or write after, write in retirement. Who's a retirement writer?
Mhm.
Like after other things are done, you're like, you got to this point to enjoy, to be able to get those ideas
Mhm.
down.
Mhm.
Okay. So don't ever feel guilty for the time that you need. all
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I want everybody to write that down. Because others will make you feel guilty.
Guilt.
Don't ever feel guilty for the time that you need.
She has an epiphany, and that's really when you need to.
Yeah, and now you think of, potentially, I have a friend who writes on her iPhone. She writes her ideas down or her drafts, or we can capture it with our voice,
Mhm.
right? We capture our notes.
Mhm.
And think of it like a little notebook. Get what you need,
Mhm.
okay? And again, along with not feeling guilty, here's another one, especially for potentially the ladies in the room or in the space.
Mhm.
Don't ever apologize
Mhm.
for the time that your creativity needs
Mhm.
or for your creativity itself, right?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Okay.
That's just for ladies?
No, men can apologize as well, but I find it's something that women do more often.
Mhm.
But roses and chocolate.
Okay. So, and then it's important to break the time down. I heard you Sherry, talk about the quarterly,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So when you make goals, you can make 6-month goals, you can make year goals. We were supposed to be meeting in January and then we had the big ice storm.
Mhm.
So this was kind of a way to kind of really start off our writing year. Who here has writing goals for themselves for the year? Okay, and notice I said not resolutions, goals,
Right, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And goals are flexible. And there's also something that I share a lot, that goals are not milestones. So goals are concrete and measurable. A milestone is, I want to get reviewed by the New York Times. Okay, that was something I wanted for a long time. There's nothing I could do to have that happen. And it did, thankfully, after lots of my friends, it happened for them beforehand.
Mhm.
I got reviewed twice in the New York Times, Sunday Times,
Nice.
for my Maya Angelou book and for my Jimmy Carter book.
Oh, wow.
And they were in close succession to one another. And I had the world's worst. This was right before COVID. I think I may have had, I say early COVID, it was pneumonia, probably. But so sometimes when we reach these milestones, life happens as well. Okay.
Right.
So don't think it's all going to be rosy when this happens, right?
Mhm.
The process of writing is where the joy and the juice is. And the process of living a literary life is also where the joy and the juice is.
Mhm.
And it's also important to not just make those big picture goals, but make monthly goals, things that you can readjust, weekly goals. You can have a check-in with yourself. I have Sunday sessions where I think about what do I want to accomplish this week?
Mhm.
And I lead a community called the Courage to Create, and we have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday check-ins weekly. Where Monday we goal for our goals,
Mhm.
Wednesday we process our passes and the hard stuff of the journey, and then Fridays we celebrate our wins. And I call them ta-das instead of to-dos.
Mhm.
I like to make a Sunday ta-da list. Tell me everything you did that was an effort to your dream from the week before,
Mhm.
right? Instead of this to-do, turn it into a ta-da.
Nice.
I like that.
Mhm.
One of the best motivators for me in this writing group is the fact that Maureen sets a deadline for our quarterly thing.
Yeah.
And that deadline, no matter what, I will make that damn deadline.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that works.
Yeah.
It really works.
Right? There's a wonderful writer I love, a writer illustrator, Ashley Bryan. He's a children's author. He's passed away now, but he lived until his late 90s.
Mm.
And when I went to see him at his place in Bar Harbor, Cranberry Island off of Bar Harbor, Maine, he said he doesn't call them deadlines or lifelines. He's like, I think it, like, they give us life.
Yeah.
Mm.
They
Yeah,
give
yeah,
us something to shoot for, something to do, like, and we don't, and if you're good at deadlines and not breaking them, do what you need to do to set that up, like, you know, to have you produce what it is that you want to produce, because there will be challenges.
Right.
There will be challenges in the way. Okay, and what to put on this schedule? We can go to that next. Creative input,
Mm.
okay? Creative output and community participation. All right, so that's as we're talking about like the literary life.
Mm.
So thinking about, again, what it is that you need to ingest for your craft or to ingest for your inspiration, and then what you want to do for the output, for the deadline, for the work that you want to see. Okay. And then, of course, putting things like this on the plate. But sometimes people can become literary citizens, which is wonderful. But if your goal is to be a writer, being a literary citizen can only be part of your schedule.
What do you mean by that?
Like, just like showing up for others and not showing up for yourself. So going to the bookstore,
Mhm.
events of your friends,
Yeah.
but not making the time to do your own pages.
Yeah.
Because it's always easier to give to others
Mhm.
sometimes than it is to give to ourselves,
Mhm.
and to keep those boundaries for ourselves. So if you're looking at a week and you have like, you know, 5 literary gatherings in a row and you haven't done any of your own writing,
Yeah.
then it's like, oh, where can I put in my 2-hour block for me?
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Ask those people, they're just like,
I've lost friends. You know what? Do I miss them now? Nope.
Also, people will take as much as they. can
People,
get from
yes,
Mm.
exactly.
you. Anyway.
We'll take as much time as you can. And also and it really is, do we want to be liked or do we want to do our work? Right? And guess what? The people who are going to judge us for doing our work don't really like us.
That is so true.
They don't really like us. So why are we trying to please them? You know?
Yep.
And that doesn't mean you don't like, make concessions at times to like have a family life and, do certain things. But at the same time, there's other concessions you can make. Like when I was young, when my son was young, like I was like, as a toddler, I was like, the kitchen, like the living room's never going to be clean. There's going to be books and toys everywhere, right?
Mhm.
As a writer, I'm like, do I care if my garage is dirty or do I want to write this next chapter?
Mhm.
Like somebody may judge as they drive by my house. What's that dirty garage doing? Like Bethany's writing her book. And at the end of my life, no one's going to say, thank goodness her garage was clean. They're going to be like, oh, wow, 14, 15 books. Thank you for leaving these for us.
Mhm.
My son is going to care about that more than the clean garage. I'm not a hoarder, by the way. Yeah. Not yet.
I gotta tell my mom that. Like, she's always like, "Oh, the house is not clean. The house is not clean." I'm like, "Mom, you're doing so much good work right now. You're doing so many things that like are getting so. Everybody's like, oh, you're doing a great job. You're the best in the business." And she's like, "Oh, my house is not clean. My house is not clean." I'm like, people are gonna remember you for your amazing work
Mhm.
and not
Yes.
clean house.
Exactly. And maybe save up to get her a cleaner for Mother's Day.
Which is a famous author.
Okay. So, and then think about the phase that you're in. Are you drafting? This is the next one. Are you drafting? Are you discovering your voice? Like there's different things to do at different times and phases. Are you revising? Are you in deep mastery? Are you researching the agents? So whatever is happening in the current phase you're in and the phase you want to be in next, let that lead you forward. And we're going to share those really quick.
Question.
Mhm.
Because write a lot, but I also am trying to find an agent. So there's a lot of query letters. It's kind of like you divide, and some days I'll think, I have to do 3 queries today. But I really just want to write my story.
Mhm.
I really want to paint a painting.
Right.
So it's like you feel like you're dividing yourself.
You do feel that's part of it,
Mhm.
all right? And that's one of the main things that I help writers with, because like when you've moved the phases are dreamer, builder, we're gonna get to this, or we can do it really quick because I'm a little long-winded tonight and I love sharing with all of you. Dreamer, builder, submitter, reviser, on the verge. And I was on the verge for 10 years, right? So that's when you're getting positive rejections, or sometimes like your champagne rejections, we call them.
Champagne rejection.
Champagne rejections. That's where it's
Like
like,
nice rejection,
they're like, I love everything,
but
but it's not for me.
yeah.
Or, or you get to revise and resubmits.
Mhm.
That's when you're on the verge too. They, or sometimes you can even get to acquisitions meetings.
Mm.
And that 10 years, I was on my second agent by the time I published, on my third agent now.
Wow.
And in the first, and got my master's degree in that 10-year time. And I would get to acquisitions meetings, but then not come out with a contract.
Ugh.
So sometimes like that's it, the on the verge part can be frustrating,
Mm.
but you're talking about the submitter reviser part where you're like, and that can overlap with the on the verge. At some point you tip over from, the signs are showing I'm going to get published if I somehow keep the stamina and position myself right.
Mhm.
We have to move from creative artist into business artist at one point if we want to publish.
Mhm.
But we never need to leave our writer's heart and soul behind. Okay. And then after on the verge, then it's agented, debut. And the phase I used to call early to mid-career, but now I say kind of what we're all wanting to achieve is to get to empowered author,
Mm.
right? Where we're publishing, we know we're more than one book. We can move in and out. We're comfortable making the career decisions just as much as we are the craft decisions.
Mhm.
Because at each of those phases, new frustrations arrive and new joys and new challenges too.
Mhm.
Okay. So, and so we do have some in the group, that are published, and, whether that's debut or in the empowered author space, we never stop learning.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, we can go to the next, and we can skip this one. We know frustrations are going to arise. We can go back.
Mhm.
And if you ever get to that part where it's, you're not in love anymore with the work. I had a friend who, when she was drafting a novel, when I first moved to Austin and we were in a critique group, and she was just so lit up every week. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. I love it. And then like 2 years in, she was like, oh, I don't love it anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it's kind of like marriage, right? You have to find the love and find the reason to stay,
Hmm.
right? It isn't just the romance of it anymore, the romance of being a writer.
Mhm.
It's the reality of being a writer.
Mhm.
And so at that point, let yourself fall back in love, find beginner's mind again if you need to, understand that rejection's just part of it.
Mhm.
Just like somebody saying, or might be being hurt by the boundaries we're setting by our lives, different people have different feelings about Mel Robbins. Have you all heard of Mel Robbins' book, Let Them?
Mhm.
But like, you have to let them reject you.
Mhm.
I call it like saying, rejecting the rejections.
Mhm.
Thank you for rejecting me. I'm going to reject your rejection and keep doing what I need to do.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to submit again. I'm going to see what's here that I might need to take in, but I'm not writing to people please, and I'm not turning my work into a pretzel.
Mhm.
Right? Or you're like, some people will get to that phase where you're getting some feedback back, and then you're like, I did this because they said so, and I did that because the industry said so, or the publishing professional said so. And then at the end, you got one of those messy turducken thingies again, and you're like, ugh, right? You have to like process it all through your artist heart, not your business heart, but your artist heart. Okay. So let's go to the 8 phases real quick. And we can go to the next slide. So when your phase is going to dictate your schedule too. Okay, so someone who's in the mid-career in the empowered author, it's not going to look like a dreamer. You're going to have different goals for yourself, right? And someone who's a submitter, you're going to have different goals than when you were in the builder phase. When you're in the builder phase and you're just building your craft, you don't have to worry about submitting yet, or doing the research to submit, or balancing the submitting part.
But when you're in the submitting, you still have to be the.
You still have to build. You are, when you're an author and the book is out, you still have to write new stuff,
Right.
right? Because, you know, when the books come out, they come out like years after you finished them.
Right.
Sometimes you're surprised at what you wrote. You're like, oh, but then you have to do the promotion and the other things. So what I say is, we love the writing, right? That's how we started. Nobody came into this because they wanted to write the world's best query letter, or like, I just want to write pitches all day long. Let me sum up my beautiful novel in what's it called? A synopsis, or an elevator pitch, or whatever, right? So the business aspects are harder. Do those first, I say. Swallow the frog and tantalize yourself with the writing.
Not necessarily, they don't have and they don't like just being in the music business.
Yep.
Billy Joel lost millions of dollars because, you know, he had that manager, so.
Yep. So that's another part of my pain to action story, is I saw that for writers, and because of the many writers, hundreds and now thousands that I've helped like online, I work with people to help position their work, because I happen to be good at titles and marketing and understanding the market and bringing editors and connectors in. So there's no place you can get you can get a master's in craft, right? And we spend like $50,000 on master's degrees now in writing. And you come out and you don't know who to send to. You don't know what they're looking for, and you don't know what to do. So some of what I do in my deeper work is to help writers do that, because we're not all business people, and we can really hate that. And we need confidence to like pitch yourself at a conference, just like Maureen is having you do it. I used to set little goals with my friends at conferences, like, who was one of the people when I said the literary life isn't like never pitching yourself or telling any, like, I lived in New York. I got to see editors at local meetings and agents at local meetings. And I would have to force myself, make a commitment to the person next to me, my writer friend. I'm going to go up and talk to them. I'm going to share something, or I'm going to submit. You can make those like goals happen, like use your buddy system, your support system to further yourself, because we will talk ourselves out of doing the work that we need to do, because it's not easy, right? Nobody loves submitting. But I also, coming from my acting background, actors will say like their job is to audition. At a certain point when your work is ready, it's your job to submit. And you have to approach it like a job. Okay. All right. So again, these are the phases. So builder, reviser, and submitter, reviser go together. On the verge, agented, debut author, empowered author, and then you get to the mentor phase where you're giving it away, right? Where I think, you know, wonderful people, probably like a Stephen Harrington, a Sarah Bird, you know, Kathy Appelt, for those of you in children's literature, like, you know, they're still working, but now there's this beautiful legacy to their work, and they just have this generosity of spirit as they continue to move through the world. And you notice this goes up like in a
Yeah.
plot, you know, kind of like up to catharsis, okay? Up to your climax there at Mentor. It doesn't happen that way in real life. It's gonna go up, down, and all around. Sometimes you're gonna go back a phase. You've been agented, and then your agent leaves the business, or you know, you published one book and now it's 5 years until your next book. Okay, you want to start a new genre. So then you go back to the dreamer phase. Okay, you're, you know, where you were a short story writer and you've built the muscle there and you're the submitter reviser. And now you want to write a poem or a screenplay, or so these phases kind of like move together. There is no straight line and there is no straight ladder. I think of them as kind of like a forever circle, right? No, it is. And that's part of the journey, right? Like if we think about self-actualization, it's the pursuit of it,
What is that saying? In life, there is no finish line.
right? It's all the process, you know? Yeah. Well, it's not the end until it's the end, and it's the end when we're gone, right? There may be something else next. I hope there is. I believe there is. But at the same time, like, let's spend our days living the process instead of just trying to get the rewards of it. Because the rewards of it, nobody, who's in here to get rich and famous? Right?
Famous.
Who's in here to see their book made into a movie?
Oh, that'd be.
Who's in, you know, I know friends who've had I'm friends with Jenny Han, who did The Summer I Turned Pretty. And you know, like, but she didn't write that book to get a Netflix deal one day, right? That's icing on the cake. And she's, you know, writing it like she's, you know, she's deserving it. And she's writing the things and directing. She has a whole new career because of what her book achieved, right? But it started with the book. And it started with doing it just like all of us. And she didn't do it to get the Netflix deal, right? There's a reason we're not in Hollywood. Right? Or Owen is now in Hollywood. So like he, you know, that's his thing. Okay. So I think we're gonna go skip the next slide on identifying your phase, because I think everybody can identify their phase. And if as we kind of like go through, who in here is a dreamer? Pardon me, who in here is they're in the dreamer phase? Who in here is in the builder phase where you're building your craft? And it's good. You can keep raising your hand. Because we're still all of these things. If any of the phases that come before, they're still a part of them. Who's in the submitter reviser phase? Who's in the on the verge phase where you're getting the positive rejections? All right. And guess it. And again, I was in the on the verge phase for 10 years. I didn't tell you how long it took me to move through those other phases. Right? It takes the time it takes. Okay. And then we do have, I don't know if the writer we talked to from Book People, if she's agented or not, but there may be some
Kirti's not.
folks who, and again, you can skip a phase. Sometimes like you can become published and traditionally published. And then if you really want an agent, then there's other work that you need to do. So the Courage to Create is the group that I lead online, and I'm going to give Maureen something to send out that if you all want to join the Courage to Create, I'm going to give you $75 off the annual fee, because I'd love to have you and support you with the greater work in living the literary life. Because the tips that you got here, like it's just the surface of what you may need to keep things going. Right. And if you're looking for editors and agents, it's also a place to do that. And also we can go to the next one too. That's just a little bit to let you know what we're up to. And then the next one has, the different things we do inside of, the community. And then, back in January, right? Let's pretend it's January 17th, I think is when we were supposed to meet. So your year starts now, okay? Your big why is your compass. Your plan is your path. Are obstacles gonna come up as you work your plan? Yes, okay? And the next small step is all you need. And whenever in doubt, go back to that passion and purpose. Okay? Make it simple for yourself. You love to write. You want to be heard. You want to share your work with the world, you know, and even if that's like sharing your work with the world is at this table, right?
Yeah.
The world is right here. So that's where we start and where we grow from. And I have my I'm going to give you a homework assignment because I used to be
Okay.
an English teacher. And Maureen can check this, or you can send them to me via email if you want. Create 10 rules for your literary life. Your rules that you live by. Okay, so when I started with the Write Submit Support class, that led to the Courage to Create Community. The Courage to Create Community led to this Verge group that I lead now, where in the last year, we've had, that program's been running 2 years. 50 people have finished the program, and 25 are now agented, and 14 books are under contract. But it all, and everything that the Writing Barn has built comes from these rules here. So write what you care about. These are rules that I made for myself. Follow your passions, your oddities, find your vein of gold and tap it endlessly. Vein of Gold is a book by Julia Cameron. The only permission you need to write is your own. Grant yourself the belief you so readily offer others. Feel the fear, use it. Fear can drive us to do great things. Just don't listen to it. All right? Never give up, ever. There's never a time when walking away from your deep-seated dream is the right option. We may need time to rest, heal, devote to something else. There's medical things that come up in our lives, mourning someone, lots of different things. But the only forever there is the pursuit itself. Keep coming back to it. Take classes, talk to other writers, form communities, pay it forward. It will pay you back. And think about, like, are you living these right now? I say many of you probably are, right? You're paying it forward. You're doing the work. You're showing up. You're feeling the fear. You're letting your alarm, is it alarm saying, get this lady off the stage?
But you're gonna get, any moment, you're gonna get the eviction notice. We're 3 minutes over, and I'm surprised we haven't heard it yet. It's coming.
It's coming. Oh, my goodness. Oh, there we go. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry about that.
It doesn't fit us. It just ends the librarian.
On the days it's hard to muster belief in yourself, have a friend who believes it for you. Don't mistake your real job craft before sales, but when you are thinking about marketing, you need to do that work, okay? Be vulnerable on the page and in your life. Vulnerability is another name for bravery, and that's, writers have to be brave. Each and every one of you are brave. And I was a reader before I was a writer. I'm a reader still. Read to be entertained, absorbed, to lose yourself, and then find yourself. And write. Whether it's, my friend Kathy Appelt says, like, your fingers are on fire or you're pecking at each hard one word, write, because writers write, and you're a writer. Okay.
You write like you think you're running out of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we have time. We don't have time for questions, but I'm going to let you ask them anyway. If you have questions, I'd love to hear.
I like what you said about writing it, the editor's turning you into a pretzel. I had an editor one time tell me that I had too many good dogs. She counted them. There were 28 good dogs in my story, and I had to laugh and fire her because I thought, obviously you don't own a dog. Whoever had a dog, and you can't have too many good
Yeah.
dogs.
You can't have too many kids. So yeah, yeah. Another writer, friend of mine used to be like,
Here we come.
she's like, I'm a hungry writer. Like I'm always writing like food scenes, and so she was like, don't sometimes we have to skip some of those things. We have a question here and then we'll do, let's do online and then we'll go to this gentleman. Did somebody have something to share from online?
David wrote, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Real quick, does anybody want any more banana bread?
Oh, got some banana.
Oh, get Justin's banana bread for those of you who aren't here. Very good.
Does anybody else have a question? Or?
Yes,
I wanted to ask.
yes.
Yeah, hey, QT.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask one question. So, Bethany, like, if you're working on multiple projects and you really want to work on one that's going to take a really long time, but there's another project that you can finish quickly, how do you handle that? Like, I have a project that I know I can finish quickly, but the one that's taking the long time is the one that I really want to work on. And I'm having a really hard time trying to get to the smaller project. So,
To the one that
how do you deal with that?
Having a hard time getting to the smaller project because she really wants to be working on the
That,
larger
that I
project.
can
Okay.
finish quickly.
the one that you can finish quickly.
Mhm.
If you and you think that one, because you're published, you think that smaller project is going to sell?
It's a children's
Well-
book, so I know it won't take as long as the novel that I want to work on. So,
It's a picture
yeah.
book? Okay.
Yes.
So I write picture books and novels and have published both as well. I think if you have multiple projects or if like you're a poet and a novelist or something like that, you can have one long form and one short form going. And on the days you can create a schedule if you like schedules, which we talked about today, but you can also like the one that is getting the passion, right? That you're feeling the desire, work on that. And then when you get spent, like for the day or the week or whatever, then switch to the other one. And
Awesome.
especially if that's the shorter one, you could probably get that one done in like increments. And also know like a novel's a marathon. A picture book's a marathon to me too. They take me many years to not to draft, but to get to the core of it. And so just kind of allow yourself a little balance and again, like I said, you can tantalize yourself with which one's the reward. Sometimes you'll want to swallow the frog and make headway on one, and then sometimes you'll want to like go with a passion and then go to the other side.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Justin.
Hi, Justin. Thank you
Okay.
for the
Thank
bread.
you. Yeah.
For those of us who are having trouble finding the end of the story, what do you think about writing the back, the blurb, the back cover blurb?
Yeah, I think that's great. That you can project yourself to the ending. I think writing the back cover, the catalog copy, is a great like North Star to be like, this is where I'm headed. Right. And I would read a lot of back covers. So you can see like how they thread that in. And does anybody have grandkids? I have 2 children's books here. You get to, all right. Who has a birthday coming up closest to today?
You mean it's my own birthday?
Your own birthday.
Oh,
Okay. When's your birthday?
March 15.
Okay. Anybody else when after March 15th? Anybody else? You don't have to say the year.
You know what? You guys,
75.
you both have, you're gonna have a little great grand.
I'm gonna have a great in May.
And you have, yeah.
Are you going to have a great? All right. I'll sign these for your great. One for you and one for you.
Great.
It's great. It's a great, grand, yeah.
Oh, who's
I have
having
a
up with the
great,
great?
I have a
I'm coming
great
up with
who's,
a great.
You're having a great and a grand and,
Well, I
and,
have
okay,
6 grandchildren.
all right.
One of them is pregnant.
Oh, my God.
I have a great granddaughter whose first birthday is in June.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
No, she's-
You and
Hear
you.
that. Yeah.
All right.
I have another question.
And then you can arm wrestle me for the, no, yes.
Question from
Yes,
Sherry.
Sherry.
It's about writing.
Yes.
I've written,
Real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt right now, but that leaving, but you also asked me.
Yes, thank you.
It's Pathe,
Oh, let me do.
Pathe.
Nice of you to remember,
Oh,
Justin.
I was
So
not gonna,
good.
I was not gonna remember that.
Pathe Mathos. It comes from the play Agamemnon.
Oh, I like
Agamemnon,
that.
And means
Nice.
there's wisdom and experience and there's wisdom in.
All right. I know that you guys might need to get going. I think Sherry's gonna ask one more question to Bethany, and you're welcome to stay on, maybe. You're welcome to stay on or not, but I really appreciate you guys being here. And if you guys have thoughts about what you would like us to talk about
Thank
next week
What's your-
or in the coming weeks, let me know, because I want it to be topics that you all find interesting and helpful. So it's good to see you.
Thanks. Mary.
All right,
Okay,
and we'll
bye.
see you soon. Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.